No, I don't work in finance, and no, I didn't inherit a ton of money. I actually started off my journey earning £13 per hour as a UK junior doctor, and I was determined to build wealth, and that's exactly what I did. I started investing in the stock market. I jumped on the property ladder at the age of 24, and since then I've been able to purchase more properties. And no, I didn't get involved in any get-rich-quick schemes. I just implemented a strategy. I was patient and I put in the work, and I'm going to share the exact strategy that I've used because I believe that you can become a millionaire on a low salary, and if you're trying to secure the bag, then you need to watch the rest of this video. I started off using the 50-30-20 rule to help budget my take-home salary after paying taxes. And if you haven't heard of the 50-30-20 rule, I'm about to break it down to you. This strategy encourages you to spend money in 3 ways. It encourages you to spend money on your wants, your needs, and investment. And your wants are the things that you need in order to survive, and they include things like your rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, excluding eating out, transportation, any insurance that you have to pay. And the reason why they're called needs is because you need to do them in order to be able to survive. Then you have your wants, and your wants are linked to the quality of your life. They are things like your streaming services such as Netflix and Spotify, whenever you go out to eat or you go shopping to buy new clothes, or any hobbies that you may have, as well as lifestyle upgrades, so getting a new car or buying fancy things for the house that you live in. Wants are important because you want to enjoy your life. However, it's this section that needs to be controlled, and most people unfortunately don't control this section and end up falling into something called lifestyle creep, which is basically when you make more money but you spend more money on things that you don't necessarily need. It's this part that you need to hone in on. And then you have the investments section, and this is where freedom is, where your money grows, and it's actually how millionaires are built. So according to these 3 sections, you shouldn't be spending more than 50% on your needs, more than 30% on your wants, and 20% of your income on investments. The investment section includes any sort of asset, and an asset is something that makes you money. And there are loads of different types of assets. Investing in the 401k if you're in America. If you're in the UK, then the equivalent to that is your individual savings account, also known as your ISA. It could be investing in rental properties, the stock market, or your pension. So if you're keen on becoming a millionaire on a low salary, you need to be able to know where exactly your money is going. And if you don't know, I would advise that you keep a log of how you're spending your money, and then after 30 days you review it. You can split your spending into each of the 3 different categories. So how much money is going towards your needs, how much money is going towards your want, and what percentage of that is your entire income. And if you find that actually you're spending 40% on your needs, you can start to think about the things that you can dial back on in order to get it closer to the 30%, and then taking the difference and investing that into an asset which will work for you and make you more money. The second thing you want to do is get rid of any high interest debt. Debt is money that you need to pay back, and usually when you've accumulated debt, there is an interest rate attached to it, and the interest rate may be as little as 3%, but if you've got a credit card debt, it can be high as 26%. And if I put that practically, let's say you had a credit card debt of £1,000 or $1,000 and the interest rate was 26%. That means you would have to pay £260 or $260 in interest in a year for borrowing £1,000, which is a lot of money. And it actually can stack up and become more if you're only paying little amounts over a period of time. And so if you do have debt, I would recommend trying the Avalanche approach. And this approach has been mathematically proven to be the most efficient and quickest way to get rid of debt. And with the Avalanche approach, what you're doing is prioritizing paying off the debt with the highest interest first before paying off the debt that has the lowest interest, whilst making sure that you're meeting the minimum payments of each debt every single month. So in order to do this, you need to know 3 things about your credit card debt. So the first thing that you need to know is how much interest is associated with the debt. The The second thing you need to know is what is the minimum repayment, and the third thing you need to know is the balance. Once you have this for every single credit card debt that you have, you want to make sure that you are paying off the minimum for every single card. However, the card that's been identified to have the highest interest, you want to put extra money towards paying off that card first until it's paid off, and then you want to repeat the process until you clear all the credit card debt. In order for that to make sense, let's say you had 3 credit card debts, and credit card A has $1,000 on it, but the interest rate is 26%. Card B has $1,000 on it, but the interest is 19%. And card C has $500, but the interest rate is 4%. Well, card A is costing you the most, so you want to make sure that you're meeting the minimum repayment for card B and C, but you're putting more towards card A, so you're paying a lot more into it up front in order to be able to pay off a lot sooner. Then once you've cleared up your credit card debt, you want to use credit cards to your advantage. If you are someone that has a good credit score, you can actually save yourself a lot of money in the long term. Reason being, if you have a high credit score, it basically means to banks that if they give you money, there is a high chance that they're going to get that money back. And so because you are a reliable person, they are more likely to give you lower interest rates because you're seen as low risk. Whereas if you have a low credit score, it means in their heads that if they give you the money, there's a chance that they probably won't get it back. And so as a result, you're high risk, and they probably will give you really high interest rates, which is going to cost you more money. Another perk of credit cards that people don't seem to touch on is that you can get points for every time that you spend. There are a lot of credit card companies that offer you rewards for every time you spend money with them. If you spend £1 with them, you might get a point. Sometimes if you spend £1 with them, you might get 3 points or 10 points, depending on the nature of your spend. And you can actually accumulate these points to use them for flights or hotels or experiences. I actually have a video where I shared that I use my credit card points to book a business class ticket, and I saved loads of money because I was able to subsidize the cost of my business class ticket with the points that I use for my credit card. If you already have a credit card, there are things that you can do to improve your points. So the first thing you can do is, of course, making sure that you're meeting the minimum repayment every single month. However, the key thing with credit cards is to try to not pay any interest. And the best way to not pay any interest is making sure that your balance is paid in full every single month. So if you know that you've only got £300, make sure that you don't spend more than £300 on your credit card. So when the statement comes, you can just pay the £300 like this. The second thing that you want to do is not close old accounts. Sometimes if people aren't using their credit cards anymore, they'll close it. But actually, the longer your credit history, the better, because it means that banks have a lot more information about you. And so again, in their eyes, you're less risky. Third thing that you want to do is be careful of buy now, pay laters. I am a fan of Klarna and ClearPay and all these pay you 3 organizations. I think that they make purchasing things really accessible. However, if you do have an issue with them, it can have a negative impact on your credit score. So always keep an eye out. Make sure you're paying it in full. If you have any issues, make sure it's resolved promptly so that it doesn't have an adverse effect on your credit score. And the last thing is make sure you're not too reliant on your credit card. I know that I said credit cards are amazing and you can get points and you can use them for your holidays. However, if you are too reliant on your credit cards, it can also be a red flag to banks that you don't have money until you're really in need of extra money and you kind of need them in order to make ends meet. And just based on the psychology of how people are, if you're really desperate, they can kind of take advantage of you and as a result give you higher interest rates. So the key is to make sure that your utilization, so in other words, how much you're spending in proportion to how much credit limit you have, is less than 30%. So if you had a credit limit of £10,000, make sure that you're not spending more than £3,000 on your credit card every single month. Then, I can't lie, you want to have a side hustle mentality. And a side hustle mentality is basically a mentality where you are looking to earn extra money. Remember, when you are on a low salary, it can feel like you're trapped, but remember that your salary is fixed, but how much you can make as an individual is not. If you do have a low salary, there are two reasons why that could be. It could be A, your job may not be deemed as valuable. If it's something that is non-specialist, or something that AI can do, or something that tech can do, or something that someone doesn't need to be taught how to do, chances are it probably won't pay as much as jobs that are more specialist or more niche. Or it could mean that you are being taken advantage of, which is also something that you need to assess. There are two approaches to a side hustle. So the first is gaining a new skill and then monetizing it. And then the second is you already have a skill that you are aware of and monetizing it. But the key underlying message is monetization. If you are knowledgeable about something, you can start freelancing in it, you can start tutoring, you can start creating content online for someone or for an organization, sharing the knowledge and the insights that you know. You could start a reselling business if you have items that you no longer need, or if you're really good at getting things at a low price that are limited edition and selling them at a higher price. Or you could start a business. But the key thing is looking at what you're interested in and what you actually care about, so that if you do need to get extra qualifications in it, you're motivated to do so, and then getting good at it and then charging a fee. And when people think about side hustles, they think it has to be 20k or 10k. £500 every month consistently goes a long way. £1,000 every month consistently goes a long way, and you can't expect those amounts of money at the start, but you can definitely work towards it in being consistent and refining your skills. But the key thing is, once you make additional money from your side hustle, you need to take all of that money and invest it, because that's where the game-changing element is. Now, remember when I talked about the 50-30-20 rule? I said that the 20 element of the rule is where millionaires are made, and that is the investing element. So when it comes to investing, there are loads of different strategies, and it comes down to working out what is best for you and how quickly it is you're trying to achieve financial freedom. I think the first step is definitely working out what financial freedom looks like to you, because it will look different from individual to individual. I would also say investing in the stock market is one of the safest ways, and there is a lot of content around this. The S&P 500 for decades has returned between 8 to 12% every year, and if you invest £500 every single month consistently for a number of years, you can hit 7 figures. And that's it for this video. Let me know if you think it's possible to become a millionaire from a low salary, and I'll see you in my next video.